Today is Thursday, July 23rd, 2015, and this is the beginning of an interview with Mr. Jim Morley at the Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Center in Fremont, Ohio. Mr. Morley is 79 years old, having been born on July 11th, 1936. My name is Julie Miley, Manuscripts Assistant at the Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Center, and I will be conducting this interview. All right, Jim, can you state for the record what war, branch of service, and the years that you served, please?
I served in the United States Navy from September 1955 to September 1959.
Okay. Now, were you right in between, like, the Cold War era-ish?
Yes, right,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Now, you weren't, they didn't have the draft at that time, so you just enlisted?
They did have a draft at that time. I had a draft card, yeah, but
Really?
Our good friend Bob Mailing and I from Fremont both enlisted.
Really? Okay. What made you enlist?
We weren't going to college, and we were just, what do you think we ought to do? And the Navy sounded good, and so
Really?
we went to boot camp together, yes. And then we went to submarine school together, and he went down to Key West. He was on the USS Chopper, SS 342, and I went to Nautilus, SS 571. So.
Wow. So you enlisted right after high school, or did you?
Yeah, September after high school,
Really?
yes.
Okay.
Had to spend the summer at Gem Beach.
Oh, right. That's important. Gem Beach is good. I like that place. So where'd you guys enlist at?
The post office here in Fremont.
Really?
Yeah. At Pontific now, we're up on the second.
Oh, right.
Second floor was a recruiting office.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, did you have anybody previously from your family that was military, or you just kind of?
Just an uncle that was in Second World War.
Really?
Yeah.
So you just. All right. So once you guys enlisted, where'd you do your boot camp or your basic training? I guess.
Great Lakes in Illinois, Great Lakes Naval Training Center, September to December, and then 2 weeks at home. Then we went to New London, Connecticut for submarine school, which started in January, finished up in March.
Okay. And when you went to your basic training, was it sort of like a shock, like a culture shock to you with like the physical stuff, exercising and
you just did what they told you to do.
Yeah.
Okay, you marched a lot. Okay, you did physical training and classroom work on naval history and things like that. There, firefighting, taking out oil fires and stuff like that.
Somebody, that previous interview I did with the submarine guy, he said fire is one of the greatest fears of a submariner.
That's true.
Because it's you guys. That's it.
Yeah, the universe is pretty small.
Right.
Okay.
So, okay. Did you make any close friends when you were in your basic training, or did you guys pretty much spread out?
There were a number of guys from around this area. Another one from Fremont.
Really?
Tom Wessler or Bob Wessner, and there's a couple of guys from Bellevue, which we still get together every couple of months and have a lunch and tell lies. Okay.
That's a good thing.
Okay. So,
nothing wrong with a little white lie.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Makes for a good story sometimes. So okay. So after you got done with the basic training, did you know where you're going right away, or did you?
Yeah. New London, Connecticut. They basic training. You could try to select where you wanted to go. Bob and I both put down submarines.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
Took us over to spend some time with a head shrinker to see whether we were in fact the type of material that submariners would, be a submariner. And so
that's what I've heard. It's a little more strict as far as for a.
There were about 20 of us that went over, and there were 2 of us that got selected. Bob and I. So.
Really?
Yeah. He talked like you and I are talking, and then he said, let me see your palms. And then there wasn't any sweat. Let me see your nails. And you didn't bite your nails.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they do like lie detectors, or did they do that stuff back then?
No, not then. Yeah, it was just
really
just a psychiatrist and
looking for any little indications of nervous habits. Huh. All right. So then after that, you said you went to Connecticut?
Submarine school, yeah. And,
okay. How was that? More intense?
It was fun because when I was young kid going up through grade school, high school, I used to build lots of models, and so I was used to reading plans and things like that. And submarine school was, here are the plans for the submarines, here are the systems you have to know, here are the things you have to do, all of those types of things. So. The only thing physical we had to do there really was they had an escape tower which was 100-foot high filled with water, and they started you out at 20 feet. You went and made the escape from 20 feet, then you made it from 50 feet, and then you made it from 100 feet.
From underwater?
Yeah.
You had to swim?
Yeah, up from bottom up to the top.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it hard for you? Or was it more of just like claustrophobic?
It was different. Yeah, they had, they put you in a big tank and they put water up to about chest high, so it was over the door, and then they build up the air pressure, so it was the same as the outside. You open the door, you had a Monson lung on it you could breathe out of, and you went out and up to float line to the top. So.
Library, line 1.
Oh my god!
I had to do that twice while we was in the service. So.
And what kind of lung do you call that? A
Monson lungs, named after David Monson, who invented that after the USS Squalus sank in 1939, and it was something that would allow submariners to escape in reasonably shallow water.
Never heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Is it in there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. No, good.
I think it is.
That's probably going to help when I get this typed up, because I always do research, and if I kind of like, what is that? So, okay.
All right.
When you were in your the submarine school, did you have like an area that you thought that you'd want to specialize in while you were on the submarine, or did they kind of choose that for you?
No, it was just
basic.
Here are submarines. You need to know what they are, pass the tests and all that. Okay. After you get out of submarine school, and all submarines are kind of alike, but they're all different.
That's exactly what the other guy said.
And said when you're on your submarine, you start what's called qualification.
Yes.
And you study the systems and you study the various compartments, so that if you're in the compartment and there's an emergency, you can do what needs to be done in that compartment. And so it's called qualification. You study the compartment. You're tested on that. Have to do the work and do the paper tests and things like that there, and you walk through with an officer who essentially says, yes, you know enough to qualify. And when you finish all of that, then you become a qualified submariner, which allows you to wear the submarine dolphins.
Yeah, get your dolphins.
Okay, and and when you get your dolphins in, when I was in, they promptly threw you over the side.
Really?
Yeah, and so that was part of the celebration. So.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And if you couldn't swim, they put a life jacket on you and pulled out the dye marker and threw you over the side. So.
How cool.
Yeah.
Do you remember that day getting those?
I do. Yeah. That was, and you got a year to do it. If you don't do
it, a year?
If you don't do it a year, you're washed out. You're finished.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So they're pretty serious about it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I never knew that. So how long were you in Connecticut?
Essentially, my full 4 years, except when we were in. We went up to Portsmouth, went into the Naval Yard the last summer I was on board. Home port for Nautilus was New London, Connecticut. A lot of time spent at the Electric Boat Company, which built Nautilus, and since we were one of a kind at that time, they took really, really good care of us. Nautilus's nickname was Lola.
Lola?
Yeah, whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. Yeah. So, we could, we got whatever we needed as soon as it was needed. So.
Okay. Can you describe what made the submarine you were on was so special for that time period?
That was the only thing that was at that point that was powered by nuclear power that was able to move. It was the first, first military use of nuclear power as a propulsion source. it made the Nautilus essentially a true submarine. Up until that time, submarines had to surface, generally each night to charge batteries. They could, their speed underwater was, generally about 4 to 5 knots. They could go up to as far as 10, but that was they had only about an hour of battery power to do that in. So Nautilus could run flank speed for forever. We had oxygen tanks on board, bleeding oxygen. We had the CO2 burner to burn carbon dioxide, or scrubber. I'm sorry, CO2 scrubber, and a CO burner. Carbon monoxide was burned, made CO2. CO2 was scrubbed out and pumped overside. So the atmosphere was good. Shirt sleeves all the time. Very, very comfortable because we had just a tremendous amount of electrical power that we could use.
Wow. Now, how often were you guys actually submerged?
We did maybe 2 weeks at one time was about the longest for us.
Okay.
Now they go down for months.
Right.
It's so their capabilities they have now are just light years ahead of where we were.
Right.
We were light years ahead of anybody else. There wasn't a surface ship that could touch us.
Was it a little unnerving that first time you went under?
Well, we did school cruises out of New London on diesel boats. And so they to give you a chance to try planes and different stations and work on things like that there. And the day we went out for the noon meal, it was steak and mushrooms. And so it was a lovely day out. And the first time down, it doesn't change much.
Did it creak a lot?
We didn't go that deep.
No? Okay.
Long Island Sound isn't that deep, so.
I was wondering. I'm like,
Yeah.
So that's what he said. The other guy's like, yeah, it kind of creaks and cracks, but
well, they were a lot deeper than.
Yeah, they went around, I don't know.
They talk about 1,000 feet now, but
right.
Yeah, but the boats go deeper.
Oh yeah. Okay. How big was your crew size?
About 117. Yeah.
That's a decent size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the boats now are have maybe 130 or something like that. They're more.
So what did you do while you were?
I was an electrician's mate, second class, and worked on just electrical things, communications mainly, interior communications, stuff like that there. Checked on. We had a battery on board too. It was 126 cells, 1 ton each cell. You had to go in and check the specific gravities, like you do on batteries on cars and things like that there. So you could always tell an electrician because he had holes in his dungarees where the acid went to eat through. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you couldn't keep it off you, so it was.
Can you talk about like the kind of missions you did, or is that still sort of you guys?
Our mission was mainly to let the fleet work with a nuclear submarine because that was going to be the future of submarines.
Okay.
The other thing was to sell nuclear submarines. So if you look in the cruise book, you'll see lots of pictures of admirals and generals sitting at the controls, for depth control and the helmsman and stuff. And so what the captain did is he put them on there, gave them little instructions, and away we would go.
Really?
As fast as the sucker would go, we put it on a 30-degree down angle. If you want much more than that, you tripped out your compasses, so you couldn't do that. But down it would go, and up it would go, and there's pictures in there of people standing like this here, with pots hanging like that. So yeah, it was a big sale. Lots of congressmen, senators, people that needed to vote for money for this type of a ship. Also, worked with the fleet for anti-submarines to try and do something, and basically they had to get out in front of us to drop anything, depth charges or stuff like that there, because they had to come down to where we were. And when they got out there, we turned.
Really?
Yeah, so they were just, we could run as fast as most surface ships, and
That's
so
crazy.
it was a phenomenal thing at that time.
Huh. So while you were in the service, were you able to? Did you keep in contact with family back home, or you just sort of?
Oh yeah, just
did
letters back and forth, right?
Yeah. You had any siblings?
I've got a sister and two brothers. Two brothers were both in the Navy.
And this was after you, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
both younger.
Okay.
My younger brother Skip, who lives in Fremont here now, was on a destroyer, which I told him that was almost submarines because they went over one wave and through two. My other brother Dick was on a aircraft carrier, the Essex, which was the first of the fast attack carriers in World War II. And so, but we told them there were only two types of ships in the service in the Navy, and there were submarines and there were targets. So,
You're right. Yeah.
So it's but they did their 4 years like I did mine, and they got out and pursued other careers. So.
Right. I had another question there for you. Let me see. Were you married at the time or anything?
No, I was not.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
So did you traveled through the North Pole? Or no?
Yes.
Did you get your order the blue nose?
Yes.
You got your blue nose. Okay.
I have a large framed
Yeah.
blue nose patch. If you want, picture
Oh,
of that,
yeah.
you can take a picture of that.
Yeah, definitely.
I would invite you over to the house to see all the stuff.
Right?
Unfortunately,
It's a mess.
It's a mess right now. Yeah.
Did they do a little ceremony when you guys got the blue nose? Did they do something with ice, like really cold water?
No,
or something?
we just not. It's not like going across the equator.
Right.
Yeah. But everybody gets in their record that they are a
Yeah,
blue
they
nose now,
right.
and that type of thing. So.
Okay. I was
And
wondering
so-
about that. Okay.
And there weren't that many that were before we went up there because there weren't, submarines didn't operate under
Right.
ice. Yeah.
You're right.
So.
Huh. Probably not, but during your time, did you feel like at any time you were in danger or kind of any close calls with it? I mean, because, that's a big, that's
we
a
had
big
we
thing.
had a flooding incident one
Okay.
time where we had to make an emergency surface on that thing because and then we had a fire coming out of the Panama Canal going up north. There was the air didn't smell right for the longest period of time, and what happened was there was a small hydraulic oil leak, which leaked down onto a steam line, which was packed in asbestos, and it kept building up, and finally it did catch fire, and we had to surface, which was a great thing because it reminded the captain that we probably ought to have some sort of a emergency breathing capability if we were going to go under the ice.
Right.
And he knew we were going there, but we didn't. So we were in San Francisco, and Lola got what Lola needed. They came aboard and put in a new system that you could put on a mask and plug in, and so you could actually operate that way. And this, boats all have that capability now.
Yeah. Good precautions.
Mm-hmm.
So after you said you were in for 59, so right towards the end. Did you have the option of re-enlisting, or did you sort of, when you were done, you were done?
Sort of the option. They told me, I loved the Nautilus. I stayed there forever.
Yeah, it seems like
but they said, you can't stay here forever. You can re-up for 6 years and go to nuclear power school, or you can go to the surface craft, nobody wanted to go to service craft.
Yeah, not after doing
and so
subs.
I chose to get out and to try and follow a career in college. And the Lieutenant Carr, who's now Admiral Carr, the one I told you is
Right.
the only plank owner, as well as a Panapo polar cruise, who's still alive, wrote me a very nice recommendation letter to Xavier in Cincinnati, and they made the mistake of letting me in. So I started out down there, found out I didn't have near enough money to do that. So I came back to Fremont and enrolled at Bowling Green at the extension we had here in Fremont.
Oh, right.
So I went to Bowling Green for a semester. I took a number of courses I needed, and I got a wife.
Aw, in between that.
I love Bowling Green girls. So
I'm UT, so I don't know.
well, then after
Well,
that, I
I
went to UT and got an engineering degree in engineering physics. Was lucky enough to get a really neat job over at Sandusky at a nuclear reactor they had at Plumbrook over there, and they liked what I did, so they sent me back for a year and got a master's in physics at Toledo. So, and then they closed the place, and
Right.
we had to leave Fremont. We were on the road then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we went to down to below Dayton. There was a plant down there. Atomic Energy Commission had a plant down there that made components for nuclear weapons, which fit in my background.
Right.
And we stayed with the Department of Energy until 1993 when I retired. We had like 31 and a half years total service. And
Wow.
while we were in Albuquerque, I had a nice nuclear engineering program there, and so I did a master's in nuclear engineering. And we left 4 boys there when we moved back to Ohio. In the university, 3 of them did their undergraduate nuclear engineering, 1 electrical engineering, and so
Wow.
whatever Admiral Carr started, flowered along the way. So
How neat. Looking back at it, would you do it again? The experience?
it was a wonderful thing to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you seem like you enjoyed it.
Without any planning. So
Yeah, there was no inkling of you, like you were like, oh, I like nuclear energy.
No,
Yeah.
we didn't. I remember in high school seeing in Look magazine pictures of them building Nautilus in New London at
Really?
the time. Yeah. Well, that was really interesting, and submarine school was fine, but no expectations that we would go on Nautilus. So
That's neat.
yeah.
You still keep in contact with people? I know you said you're part of a couple associations.
Reunion every 2 years.
Really?
Every 4th one is in New London.
That's cool.
The last one was in Cleveland.
Oh, that's nice and
Which
close
was
for you.
it did a marvelous job up there for us.
Oh.
So we got a wonderful tour of the USS Cod, which is
Yeah,
just
I'm excited. I'm gonna have to
perfect.
look
We
into that.
crawled down the hatch into the forward torpedo room, and some moron had his laundry hanging up there to
Oh,
dry.
yeah.
It was just absolutely perfect. That's the way it is.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. I did ask you, did you guys have a lot of downtime when you were in there? Like as far as time off, or like what you guys do to stay busy if you weren't on duty?
You get 4 weeks leave a year, and so you could take that and,
Right.
and whenever it was convenient for the ship to let you go on leave. So
The previous interview says about they stole the captain's door or something off of the submarine, and they hit it, like they play. There's like these little submariner jokes.
there are always those things going on.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of neat.
We used to get a lot of psychiatrists to come on board to see how things were with nuclear ships and
Right.
things like that there, and they just played those poor fellows like a drum. I mean, one of our chief petty officers he had a pack of Camel cigarettes with some line on it, and he would walk his Camel past these guys each day. So
How funny.
yeah,
You kind of need that stuff,
Yeah.
break up the monotony.
there
and
was
sometimes.
there was always something going on. Yeah,
Oh.
you can see there's in the cruise book they got a picture of one of the chief petty officers sleeping in his bunk with a Mickey Mouse hat
Oh
on.
my gosh.
One of the best ones was that Lieutenant Early, who recently passed away as Admiral Early. Almost everybody became an admiral. Always it was concerned with his weight, okay? And we had a full doctor on board, Commander Dobbins, and they would sneak into his stateroom when he was sleeping and take his web belt and snip off just a little bit on the end and put the buckle back on. So he was, I just thought that was one of the coolest things
'Cause
that
they thought he was
they did.
Gaining weight and getting
Yeah.
big. Oh my god.
So, yeah, it was...
That's cute. That's a good idea. Huh. Well, anything I left out that I didn't ask you, or any stories or anything you want to add?
No, we can talk about the Nautilus cruise, the northern
Sure.
part of cruises. We went up the Pacific coast, and we had some problems with salinity creeping into our steam system there.
Oh.
Okay, and if you get salt in there, it tends to corrode things, and wherever we stopped, we'd pull the inspection plates off the condensers and go in there and try and test them, air test them, see if we could find. Could not find it. And so we were in Seattle, and our captain, William R. Anderson, who was absolutely a marvelous person, excellent captain, perfect gentleman from Tennessee, and remembered that back in the days before he was in the Navy, that they would have radiator leaks in cars, okay?
Right.
And there was a product out called barge leak, which they dumped into the radiator, and it would come to the point where the leak was, and as it came out, it would essentially freeze and plug the leak.
Oh.
Okay, and so what he did was he sent a bunch of our people from the engineering gang in civilian clothes over into Seattle to buy up all of the barge leak they could find. And we took that back, and they put it into our steam system, and that leak was plugged, and it was still in there in 1959 when we went into the yard, and Barge Leak used that as an advertisement for their product, and put out a number of copies of his book, Nautilus 90 North.
Really?
Yeah, in the little paperbacks. So it's the book that you read there.
How funny.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yep, and so that was made it for a nice cruise across there.
Yeah. Nice. Well, anything else?
No, things were absolutely joyous when we came out. The captain was picked up by a helicopter and flown down to Washington, D.C. to meet with President Eisenhower, where he received the Legion of Merit, and he brought back the Presidential Unit Citation for the crew in the Nautilus.
Nice.
And if you read the World War II history book there, there weren't that many submarines that got that medal, and that was the first one that was ever given in peacetime. And so,
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
And so we went to England and London. The English loved us. They took us to London. Time Life did. Had a lovely party there. Came back into New York for the fireboat thing. They had a ticker tape parade for us with the whole crew riding in jeeps, and the captain, of course, with Admiral Rickover, and a big car up front. Went to the Waldorf Astoria, had lunch there with the mayor. The wives that were there went with the mayor's wife. We could do almost anything. There were just lots of invitations. A good friend of mine, Bill Brown, and I went to see the Music Man, which was the top play on Broadway at the time, and our seats were in the boxes up on the side up there, and it was marvelous. The guy that had the lead there was so good. I can't remember who the girl was that was opposite him. We went to Yankee Stadium for a baseball game with the Yankees, and was just great. We were at the third base side and enjoyed the game until about the fifth or sixth inning. They announced we were there, and then we were just swarmed with people that wanted us to tell him this, do that, and we left there, went into the to the Yankees clubhouse, and sat with Mel Allen, who was their big announcer at the time. It was pretty nice because they had a bar there where we were drinking Ballantine beer, and he was drinking Ballantine scotch. A fellow by the name of Casey Stengel, who was Hall of Fame baseball, came down and talked to us a while, and we got a picture taken with him. And he said, "Boys," he says, "drinks under the table." So drinks were under the table. And we invited, the team that wanted to come down to the ship to tour. They could tour the forward part. They couldn't go to the engineering part, but they came down, and I was asked to be a tour guide for a group of them. And in that group was a utility infielder named Andy Carey. It's second base. Andy Carey. We took him through there, and afterwards he said, "Would the captain like to have an autographed Yankee baseball?"
Right.
And I said, "Let me ask him." And he said, "Oh, he'd love to have one." He had a son there. And so Andy Carey said, "I'll send you two, one for him and one for you." And so I have mine at home.
You still have yours?
Yes. It's got at least 4 Hall of Famers signatures on it. Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, and Moose Scar, and just
wow.
And so it's a lovely.
It's like all those opportunities from that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was pretty much the career. We put the boat in the yard in the summer of '59, and then in September of '59 I left and went to school.
Went away. All right. Well, I think that's good.
Any more questions or anything?
No, unless you have anything I missed.
Well, probably do. So, but that's,
well, if you think of them, you let me know, and we can always do a little.
I can tell. Let me share a sea story with you.
Sure.
Okay. There are essentially 3 guys that were in World War II. One of them was Sonarman John Mashad, who was the chief petty officer on Nautilus. The other was a fellow named Doggy Rail, who was chief quartermaster there at navigation. And the other was a guy named Pappy Angles. And on submarines, the senior enlisted person on board the submarine is what's called the chief of the boat, or the cob. And the chief of the boat takes care of running the boat for the non-commissioned officers. The officers are in charge of various gangs and everything, but chief of the boat makes sure that we've got qualified people here. The watch, he sets the watch bill for everybody, things like that. So Pepe Engel was the first chief of the boat of the Nautilus. Okay. During World War II, John Mashad, the sonarman, was on a submarine, the USS Sea Lion.
Okay.
Sea Lion was the first submarine in World War II sunk by the Japanese. Oh. It was tied up at the pier at Cavite in the Philippines with the engines laying on the pier because they were in overhaul, could not move. Took 2 bombs, one forward, one aft, and sank at the pier. There were no casualties on board that one, but however the sea, I can't remember the Sea Lion. The one that was next to it, shrapnel went through the conning tower and killed the lieutenant that was there. Oh. So John Mashad says, the boat's on the bottom, and I have no job. Okay, and somebody said, can anybody here be a coxswain? And a coxswain is somebody that runs a small boat for him. And John said, yeah, I could be a coxswain. So they gave him a small motor whaleboat, and his job was to go around the harbor and pick up bodies that were floating. And so that was his first job. He ended up on what's called the Rock Corregidor, where MacArthur and his team retreated to. And at night, submarines would come in, bringing in supplies and taking off people and things like that there. And so he and another submariner that were there heard that there was a boat in there that could use qualified submariners again. And so he and the other guy got a small boat, and they rowed out to this boat. It was night, so it was on the surface.
Right. And
they were challenged by the deck watch, and indicated who they were. And they came up on deck, and they said, we heard you needed some people, and we're qualified, and we'd love to go with you.
Yeah.
I called up the officer of the deck. And the officer of the deck said, well, where are your records? Fortunately, our records are at the bottom of Middle Harbor. Okay,
Right.
we have no records. And he said, well, no records, we can't use you. And so John Machad said he picked up a 38 rusty revolver from somebody in the Army, and he had it with him. He pulled it out, and he gave it to the OD. He said, you might as well shoot us, because that's what the Japs are going to do.
Oh my gosh.
And so the OD said, get your ass below.
Oh my god.
So that's how we got off the island of Corregidor. Now the interesting part is he's on the Nautilus as the one of our chief sonarmen.
Really?
And at one of our reunions, Pappy Engels was there, and Pappy Engels was the deck watch.
Oh my god. That is crazy.
Yeah, I heard that story, and I could not believe it. When I told Janet, I said, this is marvelous. I've got a good friend named John Ewell,
Yeah.
who was a young seaman at the time and just loved submarines, and he still is. And I told him, I said, that was the most fabulous story I ever heard. He said, well, you haven't heard the end of it. He said,
more?
yeah. He says, I'm sitting on watch, he said, one night, and they're telling the story behind me. He says, my eyes are like this. And, he said, I had the helm, and he said, I'm listening to this and listening to this. And good friend of both of ours, Bill Brown, lives in Arlington now. Bill Brown leaned over to him, and he says, Ewell, what the hell course are you supposed to be steering? John says, I was about 15 to 20 degrees off course. Okay?
Oh my gosh.
And Brownie says to him, just give it a half a degree left rudder and hold it. And so he did, and he says, I'm here, and he says, then I'm just about on course, and the diving officer sees that, what the hell course are you steering?
Oh no!
So I mean, that's a long sea story, but I think it's a wonderful story.
That's a great story. I'm glad you remembered that to say that.
But to see that people, and the other fellow, Doggy Rail, was at Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, got blown into the water and swam over to Ford Island. So, I mean, those were the kind of people that we had.
Oh my gosh.
So.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that one.
I think I told you John Krozik, who was the fellow that he and I did the design for the pole flag.
Right.
I asked him what he was doing the day the Japanese surrendered, and I think I told you he said they were submerged in the Sea of Japan, mapping minefields for the invasion of Japan.
Really?
Nothing would scare me more than being in a submerged submarine looking for mines.
Are you?
So you can only make one mistake.
Right, and you're done.
But those, my biggest regret was I didn't spend more time talking to those folks. So, okay.
No, but you're still getting those stories out. Okay. You're doing this.
Yeah.
So that's why we do it. So.
Okay. I'm not sure what my dad DeFrance says. It looks like an allergy. You got to put these things in.